Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Advanced Course in Drones and Development. We have been talking about drones all throughout the last how many days now? Almost 24 days. And it's been fun. So, today we're going to probably learn a bit more about everything unmanned. And to talk about that, we have Captain Nikunj Parashar from Sagar Defense Engineering. It's a company which makes every kind of robot that you can imagine. The ones which can walk, the ones which can float, the ones which can dive, the ones which can fly, everything. So, welcome, Captain Nikunj, to this course. And we really hope to learn everything from you, not just about drones, but even leadership, your life, and your story, everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. It's been a pleasure to be here. And the reason the yesterday night when you sent me that what's the theme you would like to, I said it's about unmanned systems, and it's the dream which everybody right now I see is aspiring towards it across the country, across the world. And there is something while I go into unmanned systems, before that I would like to put up a small story. A story which has a lot of relevance, a story which is very important for us to understand where overall unmanned systems would be leading to. And so I take you 3,000 years back. Now, when we look into 3,000 years back in the kingdom of Israel, where we had the Israel and the ancient Palestine was based in Crete. So Palestine is basically more of a seafaring nation. Now, if anybody's been to Israel and if you see, there are valleys. The northern side are the hills. Then you have a valley, and then you have the southern side, the coast completely. And is the coast where current Tel Aviv is already there. Now, when you look at the Stephens Valley, complete Stephens Valley over a period, it was ruled by King Saul then. 3,000 years back, it was ruled by King Saul. And King Saul was a great leader. Now, Palestine wanted to come across and capture Israel and get into Tel Aviv. So what happened is all the way from Crete in the Mediterranean Sea, the Palestinian army comes across. Thousands of people they come across. King Saul, comes to know about it. So imagine a situation where you have on the northern side you have the whole Israelis, and on the southern side you have the complete Palestinian army out there. Both of them looking at each other. And in the ancient time, the general fight used to be one person to other, man to man fight. If you look across, they would say, let the mightiest come from your side. You bring another mighty one from your side. Both of them fight across. Whoever wins decides the battle. So you save lives. So the Palestinian side said that you Israelis send across your mightiest. We are going to send our mightiest across to you. So everybody was looking out, and there this giant walks across the valley. And as this giant walked across, the Israelis were in state of shock. I'm like, he was huge, especially from his shoulder to the neck. And there was a huge guy. So while he walks across, and the Israelis are looking at, he said that, send your mightiest. I'm going to kill him and feed his flesh to the birds in the heaven and to the wild beast in the valley. Now, people were scared. And King Saul was looking across, whom should I push across into this? So this is where this young lad walks across to the king and says, I'm going to go and fight him. Now he looks at him and says, you are a young boy, very small young boy. How are you going to fight this mighty king, the soldier who is all across over there? He says, I'll do it. So he says, okay, here, take my shield, take my armor and go across. He says, no, I don't need it. And King Saul starts thinking like, no, without the armor, how you're going to fight this big guy? Now, that was a question. I mean, such a small fellow going out there. So he starts walking in with a slingshot and a small pack. So he looks down into the valley, picks up 5 pebbles, puts it into his leather sack, and he walks across the valley into Shaba Valley. And there you have this giant. Now, while he's walking down and he's around 200 yards from him, the mighty giant once again says, come across to me. I'm going to kill you and feed your flesh to the birds in the heaven and to the wild beast in the valley. So he walks in. And he stays. And he says, okay, come more closer. While he says this young boy, what he does is he takes a slingshot, puts a stone into it, flings it around for 5 to 6 times, and shoots it across right in the center of the giant, right between his eyes. The giant collapses and he's dead. Now, everybody is shocked what happened here. Now, this is the story of David and Goliath. We all have heard about it. But why so I'm saying it today? And this is something I heard from somebody else. And the story has a lot of importance over here, especially on a management style of perspective, especially on an entrepreneur style of perspective. And when we are looking all across the globe, what we are trying to see all across is for unmanned systems, what exactly is happening. So what happens here? When you see the young David is the underdog, but that is exactly not the case. If you look at Goliath, he's huge, he's tall, but what happens when he says, you come closer to me? What exactly the thing what is happening here is he was not able to see the boy who was walking in. So the first thing is eyesight was not right. Second, the boy knew this very well, he could understand. Thirdly, he wanted him to come more closer, because when he comes more closer, it's an infantry fight, it's a man-to-man fight. Whereas the boy who's using the slingshot is more of an artillery. He was well planned, he was well prepared, and he knew what exactly he was going to do. Now, this is where the whole catch comes in. In today's scenario also, if you look across the whole industry of unmanned systems, where there are big players, where there are small players like us, people like you all who are trying to become entrepreneurs in coming times, especially in the field of robotics and unmanned systems, the opportunity is not less. The opportunity is huge and humongous. The most important aspect over here for each one of us to understand is that we are not exactly underdogs. The biggest advantage as an entrepreneur, what I have enjoyed is that I had the ability and agility along with my team to rapidly change or customize my product according to the requirement of the customer out there. It's the same way David, if you look into the fight between David and Goliath, David never took the shield. He was out there in the open. From 200 yards, he was able to kill him. It's the same way as a small entrepreneur, as a small organization, it's very easy to adapt in the current time. What it does is, the magnitude and the amount of opulence what comes across here is the systems. The systems can be easily designed or retrofitted on a giving, kind of a product, depending on what's the customer requirement is. Now, across, if you see in this industry with different people, different organizations, when we are looking at, people build certain kind of products which are built for certain application. For example, survey, if you're looking at security surveillance, if you're looking at, they build a fixed product for it. Now, when they build a fixed product for it, a bigger multinational company in this regard would have an X pricing for his product, taking its brand value. But a smaller organization may be able to do the same job, the same work at one-fourth of the cost. Now, when you look at these aspects of competition, you look at the aspect of bringing in a product line, where does it, make you stand? And you young budding people that you want to do something on your own, how are you going to do it? Because already you have both the ways. You have a multinational company, you have small players like us, both biting for the same pie. How are you going to bring about that change? The most important aspect is the market share is very huge. And huge, when I say, is more than $127 billion. Now, when you're looking at $127 billion of market share in unmanned system, it's just only with the UAVs. That's the drones. When we talk about unmanned surface vehicles from the maritime fraternity where I come from, That market share is unimaginable. And when we're looking at the ocean floor of our content of our world, which is more than 70% of complete occupancy of water body, imagine what all you can bring in. So the most important crux from where I started as a master mariner, I was a sailor out at sea. And coming to point is, I as a sailor out at sea and sailing on the high seas for many years, close to 14 years I was out at sea. What I realized was the biggest challenge for every sailor was going back home. And if you pick up today's COVID scenario also, every sailor out there, he is not getting his shore leaves. He is not getting his periodically sign off that he wants to come back home. And at the same time, when the fatigue kicks in, the risk of accident also increases. Now, this was something which used to continuously go up in my mind, from time to time while I was sailing. And I used to always think about it is what could I do? What changes could I bring in this regard if that was possible? And these thought process, I'm just putting in a slide my here. Just a minute. Can you see that?
We can see it in the PowerPoint mode. Yeah, now I
Yeah.
can. Thanks.
Yeah. So these were different thought processes which were going in my mind continuously while sailing. That, what change could I bring about in shipping where other bigger companies were already working in? But as an entrepreneur, as a technocrat who is already out at sea, could I bring in a change in which our people who were out there on the seas could stay back home? And it was COVID, something which really brought that change in. When we look at, 5 years down the line, when I was talking to people all across, they were talking about autonomous shipping 15 to 20 years down the line. As while we speak, International Maritime Organization is already coming with amendments. They're looking at change where we could have autonomous shipping. Now, a small thought process, a small David's thought process has changed today. And what we are looking at is changing the whole industry in that aspect. So as a sailor, I started working on different product lines. While working on, the biggest challenge for me was how do I explain my customers? How do I explain my counterparts? Because I was speaking much bigger than my capability. As a captain out at sea with a very small resources, having the technology with me, but still it was very difficult for me to grow out and tell people, hey, look, my team, we are capable of doing this autonomous shipping. So this is where on my journey across the globe, a government of Netherlands were very grateful to me. And they have a program, accelerator program called Port Excel. And it's a fantastic, one of the fantastic maritime accelerator program which they have. We were selected as one of the top 10 maritime startups in the world. So an idea from India went all the way to Europe. And this is where it pivoted. Now, why I'm saying this is why such a kind of acceleration was very important for us, because we got mentors. We got the right people who made us understand where we were standing and what we were looking at, what the future could hold to us. And when we were, the beauty was we were able to talk to the experts all across the globe. So the platform brought us those benefits. As an entrepreneur was that you should be ready to pivot, you should be ready to adapt. Because what you may think right may not be right as per the perspective of your customer, which is going to be, or as per your customer's future plan. Especially with unmanned systems and in maritime sector, the customers are very conservative. And you look at big players like Maersk Line, MSC, who are really working on top-notch technology, but still on a long drawn focus, they are very conservative. So how do you convince those customers? And in this huge process, working out, you would also have personal tragedy, tragedy which would happen in your life. So in 2018, while 2017, I was in Netherlands working on my technology, on my business case. 2018, I got paralyzed. Now, this was again a challenge that you are working on a technology, you are working on a very difficult tech in the maritime sector, and now you're not able to get up from your bed. What do you do? I'm sure each one of you would have these failures, would have these difficulties coming up in your life. It is And it was my one of my biggest learning lesson of those 1.5 months of bed ridden case, where I learned exactly what I want to do. It gave me that peace of mind and a very clear perspective that what I was going to lead to, where my company, my organization, and my team would head to. This was a time when people near dear you would come close. This was the time when people who you depended on would leave you and move away. So difficult time teaches you, how to brave them and how to move ahead. So situations kept on happening in, and from a team of small three people, we started growing up every passing day, where new thought processes started coming in. I also realized, with the problems on health side would come in. So you need to have second round of leadership. You need to have excellent mentors in this field who could guide you to move ahead. While doing so, I was blessed with an excellent team, which really worked together to be what we are today. Another aspect of the unmanned system, what I realize is, and in our initial days, we used to say that we would do an unmanned boat, we would do a drone, we would do a ground vehicle. But the most important aspect when you are working in an unmanned system industry, you need to understand what is your niche, what is your capability. Would you want to be the guy who would have a vessel like Whale Shark and go out there and clean garbage out of the water? Or would you be like to be an organization who would develop the technology which would go on this vessel to go out and capture the data out there? It's very important for people and team to lose focus. I would positively admit that has happened with us too. Because when you have a technology which is capable of doing multiple progresses and multiple items, you tend to deviate. And we did this. We actually went on to manufacturing of vessels. We went on to designing different kind of vessels, which was not our core forte. What we realized as a technocrat is our business case was better if we could build systems, we could license them, we could sell them, we could retrofit them. Because in that way, we could have multiple customers. And this was again a learning phase. So every time you grow, from point A to point B and from point B to point C, you need to keep looking at and introspecting on your conditions. No, it's very easy to develop a drone in current time. You see, there you have Pixoc, you have a lot of open source autopilots, and you feel that it's very easy for you to manufacture a drone. Yes, you can have a quad or an hexa flying up in the air. I have something like this sitting right next to me, a smaller one. Very easy. And people can build that. But one needs to understand building a platform, flying into the air, is that your forte? Or it's your forte of building these mechanized gimbals out there, or the internal autopilot out here, the props or the motor? One needs to understand. And the most important aspect, and what I have been seeing in the industry all across, is people like to do everything. We need to segregate. We need to, actually look at what you're going to do. And this is a classic image. For one of the product line, we were asked to do fixed wings. And this was the mess created in-house at my facility. So, when you get a good order, you make good money, but is it going to have a longevity in this sector? You need to understand. And there are certain tough business calls, there are certain tough entrepreneurship calls which you need to understand to take. Every business which you are doing out there would look lucrative for you, would look very smart. You have a product, you believe the product is there, and you say, I can go and do a disaster relief. I could go out across and do a security surveillance. And when you go out there, you realize there are certain things missing out. In that cases, then you depend on somebody else to fill that gap. Rather than that, I would say as entrepreneurs, if you are not a hardcore technocrat, and possibly if you're a hardcore technocrat and you understand the language of systems, build a single product, look for a specific application and move ahead. Because especially in the drone industry, where one single drone could carry out multiple of applications across, but it is a natural tendency to go and pitch in every sector. And this is something we all should avoid. Because from the last picture of ours, and if you see two people out here, it goes on to three people out here, and still everybody is confused what they are doing. And this was a classic example of my team members. So that's what you see there. The down below is my CTO, and top of him is my R&D head. And this is one of our the most funniest picture that they didn't know what they were trying to do. So it's better always to move out rather than looking if there is at times you feel that urge, a very strong urge that if you do X, the multiplication would be 10x, but it doesn't happen. Trust me, one person can be lucky, but not every one of you. So it's very important to understand the core, where you're going to work, which sector in the aviation or the maritime industry you are going to work. What I say is, as a master mariner, always, and when I look up to this industry, the industry is beautiful, and it's so beautiful because the horizon is limitless. And as you can see this picture, as a mariner, whenever out at sea, you look, the horizon ends. But by the time you reach to the position where you can see the horizon, it has furthermore extended. So the unmanned system industry is like a dream. The capability of the technology which is there at par has to, in coming years, is going to be 10 times to 100 times much more farther. So opportunities are also huge. It's important on the entrepreneur as well as the person who is working in this sector has to see and which way he's going to work on that. So this is where I have come across. This has been my bit of journey in the unmanned system. To coming to the other most important aspect is when I say in the unmanned system is the organizational running skills, and that's what we need to understand. A lot of maritime or UAV startups are 2% or 3% based, and you may be an individual also who want to run an organization, especially with respect to the aviation sector. It's very important for each one of you to understand as the technology is progressing, even on the open source side, you should have a thorough knowledge of understanding the proportional, integral, and derivative controls of a system which is running in. At the same time, it's very important for you to also understand the safety risk assessment of the overall project line. Now, these two are very important. In parallel, when you're doing, you're trying to develop your product line, you should also look at an application sector. So, certain application sector, whether it's cinematic, whether it's disaster relief, whether it is a medical package delivery, focus on your sector. And if you focus on your sector, trust me, you could be the master at that. But if you do not focus on your sector, the way the unmanned systems is, it's going to take you inside itself. And then it's a big mess. And it's very difficult to come out of that mess. Why I say that? I'm sitting in that organization where we have entered in such mess. We had no capability as such to work in certain scenarios. We did our best for everything, but we kept on hitting the wall time and again. What I realized, that certain things are important to be said no. So do not get into the loop where you may feel that you are capable in, but you are not able to do it. So these aspects are very important. Secondly, the strength. What's your strength? Are you good at marketing? If as a technocrat and if you want to work in these industry, but if you're good at marketing, pick up a manufacturer. Go to a manufacturer or build a partner. Because a manufacturer, even how big he may be, he needs partner who can come with him with ideas and visions and applications which can be developed. So pick up a manufacturer, pick up an UTM provider who could look at you and integrate and build your company. Certain people, in current times, I would say 85% of the people would say, no, we will build our own platforms. And I totally agree to it. If, these systems may seem very cheap, something like this, what's there with me in my hand may cost you what, $100 or a $200. But the investment cycle is very huge. Though the market share is there, there's a lot of potential, but are there paying customers? So it's very important for each one of us to decide that what is my cap table, till how much I'm going to invest in the product till I get my first customer. And these were some things we never ever looked at. So what happened? The failures, what I realized there was we landed up wasting close to $700,000. That was the burn I bared. My hard, very hard earned money, which I had, I invested that much and it was completely burned. What do you do from there? That's a question. Is everybody as lucky as me, where you have people who would not take salaries for you from 1 year and work with you? Do you have teammates like that? And this is a question you need to ask to yourself. So these experiences, which seemed very little, which seemed was a very marginal cost of $200, you went on multiplying onto it. You never realized by the time it created a dent in your pocket. So, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to put you down, or it doesn't mean I'm trying to demotivate you. Trust me, the next future is autonomous systems. There is no way about it, that we are going to survive without them. I'm a big fan of it. I want everybody to work onto it, but it's important everybody to understand the risks, the calculations associated with it. Because without that, if you're going to move ahead, trust me, you're going to burn your fingers. You need to be that lucky person to go about it. As I progressed, in this journey, when I learned my failures, I also realized that my core strength was maritime. But here in India, I was finding it very difficult to pitch across. It was the same David and Goliath story. And I'm the small David, there are big Goliaths out there, and these are big corporations when you're looking at Lockheed, Martin, Bay Defense Systems, and bigger players. How do I crack this market? And I was building small drones in these big drones because it was a low hanging fruit to me. But that's not my business case. That's exactly what I don't do. And I keep telling this to Ruchi every time and again. So then I realized, and the government of Netherlands, where the counterpart happened, I went for a grant, and this was a Dutch grant. The beauty of the Dutch grant was they gave me a grant to work here in India to go out and clean garbages out of water. So a technology which was made to scale for military was actually out in the water along with a partner called Marie and taking out floating garbages from water. This was something I never thought about. This was something I never imagined about. And what I realized, the potential for that product line was so huge that even military would have not given me next 10 years. We exported 7 systems. We supplied, the numbers are very huge here in the Indian region with that. On the contrary, we were generating employment. So the beauty was in the municipal corporation where these platforms were going in, not only the class 4 labors, but local people were employed to operate these platforms. Now imagine an unmanned system generating revenue and employment. Now revenue is understood. Every customer needs. But employment? Because the socio-economic balance which everybody talks about automation and robotics is that you put one robot and you're taking away jobs. And the same description for Go Amazon, which has happened in US. 20 stores have been launched across in US, where you do not find a single person out there. You pick up, I'm sure you guys would have seen it. You pick up your groceries, you put it in, you move out, the app automatically deducts from your wallet, and items which you have picked from place A, you have kept at place D. It's automatically, deducted from your list of groceries you have picked up. So that's taking away jobs, but it is not so. So the beauty was the potential to create employment against every vessel was three. So within a span of 6 months, we created 20 employments without paying to them as employees. So this was a big learning for me. And not only for me, for my whole organization, for my whole team. And that was something fantastic. So we realized, what if, we support players, there are n number of boat manufacturers, and we tell them, hey, look, if you make these garbage collection boats, we would give our systems for you. And will you agree to it? People were more than happy to. So now, for us, rather than building the boat, and doing the whole work, we supply systems. And that's easy. The responsibility is less, in a way that I am not on field actually doing all the testing and trials. We do all hardware in loop. It's done in the office. She goes like a vacuum clean. Isn't that a easy revenue? So where we pivoted, the most important aspect for us, one second, please. Most important aspect for us is where we were burning money, we realized what was our potential. We realized what we were supposed to do. We realized, who are we? We are a robotics company. It doesn't matter to us whether it is a UAV, whether it is an unmanned surface vehicle which is moving on sea, whether it is a platform which is underwater. It doesn't affect us. All these platforms are same to us. So what we do? So what we did exactly is, then we invested. Trust me, these are true numbers. We invested $850,000 into developing our tech. We did not build a single vessel for next 4 years. Not a single vessel. We kept on working onto our systems. We developed a state-of-the-art electronic lab, in parallel computer lab. As I speak, we are setting up a 20,000 square feet factory now, which would be one of its kind for maritime vehicles here in the country, in India especially. So this was something we learned. If you asked me 7 years back that, Nikunj, did you have this vision? I said, no, I did not have. I was doing something in unmanned systems, and I wanted to build a boat, I wanted to build a drone, and I would do a little bit of everything. So more important, every time you say that I don't have a paying customer or I'm going to different customers to do it, are you focused? Are you sure what do you want? That's very important. And remember, getting the first customer is toughest. But when you get that first customer, you have acquired that first customer, make sure, you under promise and you over deliver. And when you do that, sky is the limit for you. And this is something we have learned all across our works we have carried out. Also, certain parties, there are customers which are very tough. There are customers where you give 200% and still they would not support you. There would be your competitors who would come in place, and they would parallelly work over there in your own project, and customers would keep asking you. Whenever you are in this scenario in unmanned systems, especially in our sectors, because there are companies which can develop these tech, and they could come in parallel to you, walk away from there. That customer is not good at all. We left a contract which was for more than $250,000. We invested close to $300,000. We only got $50,000, and we walked away from there. We said, we don't want our money. You keep it. Thank you very much. And all these incidents happened at the initial days of our progression when I was, maturing up my company. So where are we? We are here. So, these importance, you need to decide which battle you are going to fight. Is that time right for you? If the wind is very strong, just bend down. So the industry may look very simple. Industry would say, when you're looking here in India, especially, we are looking at a lot of delivery options coming up, a lot of RFIs coming in, where they're looking at drone complete delivery packages. You ask me, and mine, it's another 3 years down the line. But do you want to invest so heavily right now? That's a question you need to ask. And this is across the globe. So where the African continent is easy with respect to the regulation, the European continent is quite tough. But what in the Europe and US, they value for your time and the pay rates are different. If you do the same work here in the Indian continent, your pricing comes down by 1/10. So you need to decide which market you're going to work in. You need to decide that which work would get you a good marketing and a PR feature, and which work is going to pay you out. And that's very important when you dream these unmanned systems. I keep do these calculations and look at it, that where and what would benefit as an organization, what would benefit as the customer, as being his vendor, and at the same time, which way I'm going to earn my money. So do not get overwhelmed by amount of responses, by amount of seeing another tech drone startup company coming up every day. One most important aspect I would say is, and where you should, people could go in, was maritime. When I look at aviation, it's great, very easy to go in. But if you look at challenges in the maritime, and if you're able to solve those challenges, trust me, getting a paying customer could become very easy. And this is something, all the young people and who are listening out there, it's very important for them to understand this. That if you can start working in maritime application sets, whether you're taking off a drone and sending across a live buoy, or you're looking at a launch and takeoff from a moving platform, now these applications are huge, and this sector would open up. Indian continent is more than 7,000 plus square kilometers of borderline. Imagine the market what you're looking at. When you look at the global perspective, it's huge. When you are looking something like an oil spill out at sea, imagine in the Mediterranean, where you have Ibiza, you have Barcelona, you have Italy, Geneva, Nice, Naples, and if there is an oil spill there, and you have a platform which is out, which can clean up those operations by the time it reaches the shore. So there is a huge amount of scope in this sector. While in this sector, it's very important for each one of you is to look at that what's your target market, what is the application, and which part of the continent you're going to work in. Because the water, weather, temperature, everything defines your product line. So something which has been built here in the Indian industry for the Indian region may not work in Pacific or Atlantic. And something which has been designed in Atlantic or Pacific may not work in these regions. So these are very important aspects for you to look at the demographic perspective also while designing your product line. But remember, whatever you do, keep your hearts, emotions, and brain all together while taking your decisions. And this is something I would like to put across in open, because we have burnt our fingers very strongly. So it's the same thing. I don't want others to burn it, but yes, it's an industry where it's worth taking a leap. It's worth taking that jump. It's fantastic. Even in the COVID period, people have been raising a lot of investments. Matter of fact, I think on this platform, I should say across, yesterday we have raised a second round of investments. We have not put across in PR, but we have just raised a second round of investments. So the industry is coming up. Select your battles. Look at people who can come along with you and work on your products lines rather than going all alone in the battle. So join hands together, bring in different players together in, and if you do that, it's very easy realistically to go about in this sector, because every person coming into your team could bring a different dimension for you to look at, a different sector for you to look at, and then it really helps you to model out and think that where you would like to head to and what work sector you're looking at. So that's a crux out here with my end. And with that, Ruchi, I would like to open it for questions and have a lot of one-on-one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Nikunj. Can we have questions and hand raises or comments in the chat box or anything? But before that, thank you so much, Captain Nikunj, for sharing your story, your learnings, your experiences with us so generously, so openly, and so humbly. And I'm already receiving comments on my private WhatsApp about how amazing this person is who's sharing so much. So thank you so
Thank,
much for that.
thank you.
Yes, so Munira says very inspiring. Munira, would you like to unmute yourself and say that?
Okay, thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences. I really love that you broke so much, you fell down, but you don't lose your hope and stay focused on your path, actually. So, yes, I think that's very inspiring.
Thank you, Maneja. Thank you so much.
Good evening, sir. This is
Good
Amit
evening,
here.
Amit. Yeah, hi, Amit. How are you?
I'm well, sir. So it was very generous of you, and like the point was very clear, sir. Like, don't be a jack of all trades, either be a master in one, and then think of diversification. So that was like really a very honest thing. So, sir, what would you suggest for let's say upcoming tech entrepreneurs or something like who firstly think of diversification and then they think like okay, we'll enter in all 10 aspects, and let's say we'll grow in one, so we'll then get back to that. So how will you like say to be a like let's say settle company first and then target on a single audience or a single factor and then go up?
Yeah, Amit, a very good question. And I would, just answer it in a way is 2 points. When we say look into all sector is low hanging fruit. So as an organization, look at what is your low hanging fruit and what is your long term policy. So low hanging fruit could be your easy pilot project, or you could be your first customer, or you could which will give you a revenue. And on these bases, then you develop your tech in parallel. And once you have done with your low hanging fruit and you believe your main product is living, you go all flow with your main product line. At times, it also happens that low hanging fruit, starts getting becoming in the main line. It has happened with us actually. So our low hanging fruit has now become one of the most higher earning revenue product, and a lot of technology from maritime has gone on board for it for maritime applications, which was the UAV. So that does happen at times. So it can happen, but you should, at all times, you should always keep in mind that where you are heading in, because when you go across to pitch to a VC or to a seed angel investor, you want that fund to go in, he's going to ask you that, look, great. I know you're not doing any revenue. I understand all that. But what's your end goal? So you'll say, hey, look, this is my so and so is my end goal. I want to build autonomous ships. But how you're running right now? Say, look, my technology is capable to be added on retrofits on vessels to become autonomous. But right now, my low hanging fruits are UAVs, and I'm making drones which are used on security surveillance, and I'm able to sell it to the armed forces. So he understands that even today, if he puts in 100K or a 200K, you would get some returns onto it. So at least you're not totally burning cash. So the focus in your mind should be very clear. Other aspect in seed funds, if they look at 60% as founders, that what founder is. When you go in a pre-series A, they look another 30% of what founder is. But when you go into series A fund and you want to raise that, they only look at 10% of the team. They only look at his business. So something when you're looking at business is when you're going for your series A round, right? So this cannot happen overnight. So from your seed fund all the way to your series A, you need to be clear what your goal is. Possibly in between there would be certain shift, but this shift is very important for you to convince your investors, for you to convince your new partners or collaborators, also for your team. Your team would be lost. So I lost few people due to this. We had one person who left us because he could not cope up with the pressure. We were working. He worked 3 years for us. We had somebody who quit us, and in a very good way, and said that, Nikunj, I don't want to work in software development anymore. So I had people who quit us and were not working in that field at all. So it's very important, look at low hanging fruit, look at your, long goal target market, and just push in.
Thank you for the amazing answer, sir.
Thanks.
We had a hand raised from Shrirupa. Ma'am, do you want to ask your question? I think she has put it in the chat as well. What is
Yeah,
the scope of PR and communications in this industry?
I would say fantastic. I don't know how much you follows us, but I would say that you should follow Sagar Defense and Idea Forge, how we do PR and communications. So this industry is fantastic for PR and communication, and it's something tomorrow when I want to exit my company is something which I would love to do. Is marketing, PR, and communication is what I would believe in. Most important aspect is giving a larger than life picture. Why I say a larger than life picture is Chinese manufacture drones, and they manufacture drone in 10,000 rupees, which we do in few lakhs. How do we portray something which is coming at 10,000 rupees and something which is coming at 3 lakh rupees is same, and still this 10,000 rupees is better than this one? How do I do that? So these communication channels are very important. It's very important for your end clients, and today we all say that we know army, air force, disaster relief, our clients. Trust me, we have got calls from plumbers who are saying that we are working in this building, and every time we go up, then you have to come down 20 floors down because there is no lift to pick up a 1 kg of item. Could you give me a drone in 50,000 rupees which would pick up this 5 kgs and bring it up? So what's your next customer? We don't know. It's a market which is going to open up in coming 5 years down the line, not today. But 5 years down the line, even your mother is going to talk about something like this. So, this is who is going to build that. It's not the manufacturers. Sorry, we guys are dumb fellows. We can just build something, but somebody needs to go. So PR and communication people are the most important people, are going to be the most important and sought out people in this industry. Important is for you to understand the relevance of what the manufacturer is doing in, pitch strongly to them. I'm sure they would hire you. I am looking personally for somebody who has that capability and has that sense of look at. So the opportunity is very huge. I see currently here in India, the communication standards are not great. Whereas if you look at Europe, it's fantastic, but still much more better to improve. So if you can bring that newness and put in that approach, it's a huge market.
Also add to it about the research part of it. We really lack in publishing our research. So if a technology has really worked or created an impact, there is hardly a word out there which creates a big buzz, and that's probably where industry can get together and create something, some voice for itself.
Ruchi, again, two aspects to look at it is, do you want to share it? As it's a very nascent industry right now. So somebody who has that, what do you do when your leopard approaches you in the jungle? I'll just, put an anecdote is we were in this jungle in Rajasthan. It was around 12 in the midnight. By national law, you cannot be in national park at 12 in the night. So you're at 12 in the night doing some trial runs to pick up a leopard. And, we all were facing in one direction, flying the drone in one direction these early days, and the leopard comes from behind. None of us was aware. And the leopard comes from behind, hardly 20 meters, and it's sitting there. And we sense and we turn around and we look. Say, oh my God, what to do now? Now, with the drone there, with the whole team there, the still leopard kept on sitting there for an hour and we did not move. And this was 12, it went all the way to 3:34 in the morning. It did not move. The learning in this curve, not only there was certain learning from the wildlife people, also the how that leopard tracked all the way across, came, sat, and he looked. Generally, they're scared people, they run away. These leopards, they run away. But it came and it saw what's happening. Now, there was a case with the government of Rajasthan, they have themselves. And there was a lot of learning on us as a operator that what are you supposed to do in these conditions? And how do you fly in these conditions? What if you're in the night in a national park? What happens? This was something very new. So do you share these data sets? This is something where you across the global front also, if you look, a lot of certain data sets, nobody wants to put it in the open domain for now. And they would like to bring into their people, when this happens, then what do you do? When this happens, what do you do? What kind of functions you require. So yes, I think 15, 10 years down the line, when industry starts saying, okay, somebody else has also done the same thing, then they would publish it out. That's how it is. And if the maturity level also, as per industry, we all mature enough, where we see volumes, we are seeing market $126 billion. But actually, is that sales there? No, it's not there. So if that comes in, then I'm sure someday that would happen.
Thank you, Nikunj. Uh, a question from my side. Okay, there's one more. What's the scope for marine insurance?
Very huge, very huge. Marine insurance is, it's one of the key. Not only that, in marine insurance, when you're looking at mediation, is something which is now coming in big way in maritime. Here, Bombay Chambers of Commerce, I'm part of that mediation council. So it's coming in. Marine insurance is, you do your laws, you do your insurance exams, and crack on. So it's huge in that sector. And there's arbitrages where you do arbitrations. I'm sure if you would have heard about Evergreen, which got stuck into the Suez Canal, the big ship which was blocking. I'm like a master mariner like me who would be running that ship. So insurance is a huge scope, very big field, very vast field, and there is a lot of money. If you really do from Singapore and UK, world class. It's the future. You should concentrate on that.
So, Captain, what kind of knowledge, skills, and attitude do you look for in youngsters, when you're trying to hire them in your company or bring them on, or you might, if you're like building up a huge factory, what kind of skill sets or talent or education you would be looking for?
Yeah, so I'll be very upfront over here. I have a different philosophy of selecting people. So my head of the department, who's mechanical head of the department, used to put up solar panels in Himachal. And I met him in Delhi through a common friend, and I asked him, "Kya karte? What do you do?" He says, "मैं solar panel लगाता हूँ." So I asked him, "Do you like what have you done?" So I've done mechanical engineering, and so I said, "Why don't you come in? Why are you putting solar panels?" So he came, and within 3 years, he's my HOD now. So what I look at is more important than your talent and knowledge is your attitude. That you should have the right attitude to be coached, right attitude to be learn, right or an assertive attitude to be part of a team. Excuse me, to be part of a team and share the same goal as I. The vision. If we can have the same vision in the prospective growth. So if this holistic approach, if we see in a team member, we hire him. We do not look for those big degrees from IIT or somewhere. I myself failed in 12th standard in physics, chemistry, maths. So, I was pretty bad at studies. But then since then, I have never failed prospectively. So, I look more for attitude, and that's all our interviews has been. Yes, anybody who joins us for first 3 months, we call it as a honeymoon period. Is we do not give him any work. We make them, learn themselves, understand what we are doing in. Because when it comes to work, we are demanding. So that's why I said it's attitude. If you do not know, it's fine. You should have the attitude to learn. And if you have the attitude to learn, you can do wonders. Again, something to bring it in is I have a younger brother who was also a master mariner like me. He was 9 years out at sea. Uh, you know, and in that 9 years out of sea, one day he quits sailing and he comes back to India and he tells that I want to do civil services. I don't know how much of you know about civil services here in India. It's a very big thing. For 5 years, he stayed in Delhi and he cracked. And he did. And he got through the civil services. He went on to become a bureaucrat now. He's a bureaucrat in the ministry. So, in the end, knowledge is there and talent is there. We had all that. What helped him get above all was his attitude to persevere all through those times. So, for me, the most important aspect above all is the attitude. The rest all we can teach people. That's not a problem.
Thanks, Captain. Do we have more questions for him? So we have a lot of mechanical engineers in this group. A lot of engineers, actually. I think all of them are engineers except Shirupa ma'am and me. So most of them are like students. So I guess
Fantastic.
they must have learned a lot from today's session, and there will be more who would be joining the session offline as well.
Sure.
and even learning this course as a separate program. So we'll hope that they put in something for you. If yes, then I'll forward it to you. But
Sure.
for now, thank you so much, Captain Nikunj, once again for being a part of our course. It's always a pleasure to learn with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruchi. You take care. Bye.
Bye bye.